Today we're going to be talking about tiny steps to healthy habits and how to create lasting change. In 2017, a lot of people have come in with a lot of different goals and objectives and different things that they would like to accomplish in 2017. And this seminar is to help you make sure that when you do create these goals and set these goals, that you will be actually accomplishing them this year and not letting them trail off at the end of January. There are a lot of different ways to go about this to make sure that you can create lasting change, and a lot of different things that you can do in order to make sure that you are taking one step at a time to get to a healthier habit or whatever goal that you have set for the new year. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act but a habit. So we need to learn how to move forward with this and create healthy habits and create change when that is something that we would like to do and a goal that we are setting. So there are tiny steps to big rewards, and there are a lot of different steps involved in this process, and we're actually going to go through them individually and go through step by step to make sure that everybody has a good understanding of exactly what steps we can take to make sure that we achieve whatever goals we place in front of ourselves. 1 is identify meaningful goals. 2, create action items. 3, find your motivation. 4, identify barriers. 5, make it easy. 6, spot the loopholes. 7, trigger the behavior. 8, check in. And 9, see success. So again, we're going to go through every one of these individually to just touch on them and make sure that we have a good understanding of how to go through every single step to get the big reward that we are looking for in the end. And these top steps to making big changes in your life can be extremely helpful, whether it is when it's coming to weight loss or quitting tobacco. Maybe you want to start a meditation practice. Maybe you just want to manage your stress better, whatever it may be. Each one of these steps is very important to getting to the outcome that you are looking for. So let's go through the first one. Identify meaningful goals. So when we are identifying meaningful goals, we're going to look at the coulds versus the shoulds. For example, I should lose weight versus I could stop smoking. The difference here is I should lose weight is basically going off of something that you think somebody else thinks you should do. It's an outside pressure. It's not necessarily an internal desire, but it's thinking about what you should do based on what maybe other people think or something along those lines. Whereas could suggests that you've actually thought about it yourself and you feel like it's within your power to actually make the change. This is a big difference, the could versus the should, because the internal desire is extremely important when trying to make a change and moving forward with making a change. So we're going to look for goals that are coming internally, something that you connect with and something that you're actually ready for. If it's important to you, that's when you're going to be ready to actually go forward with a change. If somebody else is telling you to do something, there's a lot less of a chance that you will actually follow through with making the change. So that's why it's so important to make sure that it's coming from internally and it's something that you truly have set as a goal for yourself that you want to overcome or that you want to go forward with, not because somebody else is asking you to do it. Number 2 is creating your action plan. This is also a very important step. When you are setting a goal, you might be thinking to yourself, wait, I already have my goal set, but without creating an action plan moving forward, it's not necessarily the same thing. It's very important to not only set your goal, but to make an action plan so you know exactly what you intend on doing to overcome the goal that you're trying to overcome. So, creating your action plan. You're going to take your goal or your outcome and identify the action items that will actually get you there. First of all, I think it's extremely important to point out that we're going to start with no more than 3. So if we start with more than 3, it can become extremely overwhelming. And if it's overwhelming, then For example, if you can't keep all of the action plans straight and you cannot keep them all afloat and one drops, then it's actually going to be discouraging. So we want to make sure that we have 3 or even less action plans that we can actually overcome and that we can do and manage. If we can't manage them and we drop the ball on even just one, it can be discouraging enough that we may drop the goal altogether and not get the outcome that we're looking for. So that's why we want to make sure that we start with only 3 or less and that we don't overwhelm ourselves. Another thing that can happen is if we, for example, set 10 action items and we go forward with trying to overcome all of these action items at once, we could end up doing 10 things halfway rather than doing 3 things to the best of our ability and to our fullest extent. We want to make sure that we have 3 action items that we overcome and that we do well, rather than having 10 action items that we are just giving some effort towards and not our full effort and not our fullest capabilities. So that's why it's so important to make sure that we have no more than 3 action items in the beginning when we are first setting our action items towards our goal that we are looking to overcome. So for example, if we plan to quit smoking, the action items could potentially be that we're going to stop purchasing cigarettes, that we're going to decrease the number of cigarettes each day that we have, and that we're going to say no to smoke breaks with friends or coworkers. These are 3 solid action items that you can start with in the beginning. And let's say you do start to overcome them, we're just going to build on them. Action items can always be changing and they can always be added on to, but it's important to start with only 3 or less in the beginning so that we just don't overwhelm ourselves going in. Another vital component is a measuring stick. We want to make sure that we are always keeping track of what we're doing so that we don't have in our mind something set that we are going to overcome, and then how are we going to know that we're overcoming it or even moving towards our goal if we're not measuring it, if we're not keeping track of exactly what's changing or how we're actually making a difference. So the measuring stick is being able to accurately measure whether you are completing each action item. And this will help you to measure your overall success, and then this can actually increase motivation over time as well. If we're keeping track and we know that we're moving in the right direction when we measure things and we know that we're getting to the point that we want to be, then it can be extremely motivating to move forward with the goal. If we know that we're taking steps in the right direction, that is huge, and that can be a huge change in your motivation over time. So for example, we want to make sure that we know exactly what we plan on doing when we set our action items. Sure, the action item of stop purchasing cigarettes is a great action item, but if we don't have something to take accountability and to make sure that we're actually moving forward with this action item, then we're not going to know that there's much change. So instead of stop purchasing cigarettes, we could change that to stop purchasing cigarettes on the last day of the month. That gives us accountability, and that lets us know that we have an exact day that we plan on to stop purchasing cigarettes. If we don't do this, then it could potentially just end up being one of those situations where we're like, oh, on Monday I'll stop purchasing cigarettes, or tomorrow. And if we don't actually set an actual date and we just say tomorrow I'll do such and such, tomorrow may never come, and we may just keep on pushing that back and not actually moving forward with it. So that's why it's so important to make sure that we set a date and a time so that we have accountability and we know that on the last day of that month you're going to stop purchasing those cigarettes. Another example is the decreasing number of cigarettes each day. So if we change that to have 1 less cigarette each day, this will keep us accountable in the fact that if we are, let's say you're smoking 10 cigarettes a day in the beginning, if you're going to smoke 1 less every day and you count them, then you know that you're making progress. It's really good to just track, and then on Monday if you smoke 10, Tuesday smoke 9, Wednesday 8, and then you know that you're moving in the right direction and that you're moving towards your end goal. You need to keep track of whether or not you're making progress, and this is a really great way to do so, is to be specific and know that you're going to have 1 less cigarette each day. The next example was saying no to smoke breaks with friends and coworkers. So maybe we know that it's unrealistic to think that we're not going to do that right off the bat, so we want to instead say no to smoke breaks during the workday. one step at a time. If we do too much at once, it may become overwhelming, and then you're not going to actually complete the goal that you have in your mind or the action item that you have in your mind. So that's why it's important to say no to smoke breaks with friends and coworkers, potentially just during the workday for the beginning action item. And then once you overcome that, then it'll be in general all day. It doesn't just have to be during the workday anymore. You can always change your goals a little bit and change your action items. Once you've accomplished one, then you set a new one. So moving forward with that, stamp it with a date. We want to make sure that we are setting deadlines. This is huge, and this is crucial for successfully meeting a goal. Again, if we don't set deadlines, and let's say we want to just become healthier overall, we want to start eating a little bit healthier and just making sure that we are living the healthiest life that we can. And if you're in a place right now where you are not making the healthiest decisions and you decide that I'll just start tomorrow, this can become a frequent thing that people say. I'll just start tomorrow, or I'll just start Monday, or I'll start next month. And if you don't set a deadline and you don't if you're not specific about your deadline and your exact date, you may never meet that goal because you may just keep on pushing back tomorrow. So that's why they help you to prioritize, and they also give you a gentle nudge if you have an exact date and an exact deadline that you are going to follow. I always like to say with this that it's really important to think about work, for example. What if your boss gives you a bunch of projects and never gives you a deadline and never tells you when they want that project back? If you have a ton of things on your plate and they had just given you this project and said, hey, give it back to me whenever you get the chance, that's going to go to the very bottom of your to-do list. That's not going to be a priority to get that done because you know that you have a lot of other things to do. So why worry about that project? There's no deadline on it. So that's why we want to make sure that the deadline is crucial. Have a specific date and make sure that you know exactly when you plan to start whatever you're going to start or stop whatever you're going to stop. For example, smoking. If you plan to stop smoking, you need deadlines to know exactly how you're going to get to your goal. And even if it's over time, that's fine, but it's specific deadlines that they're going to help you to move forward and to get to where you want to be. So effective deadlines are realistic. So for example, if you plan to lose weight, let's talk weight loss. If somebody has in their mind that they are going to lose 30 pounds by the end of the month, that's not necessarily realistic. If it does happen, it's probably not in the healthiest way. So we want to make sure that we have realistic goals and realistic deadlines. Providing rewards are something that we encourage, but maybe it's a consequence, or maybe we just need to be conscious of what reward we are giving, because if the end goal for ourselves is to lose weight, we don't want to go in with the idea of, if I lose a certain amount of weight, I'm going to reward myself with cake, or I'm going to reward myself with something unhealthy for myself, because that defeats the purpose. And then that may take us back a little bit, because you know that you were used to not having that type of thing, and then once you give in once, it could, moving forward, allow you to give in more often. So we want to make sure that we're providing ourselves with a reward that is going to be beneficial to the end result and beneficial to the goal that we have, and not something that's going to take us backwards a bit. Also, scheduling the habit is really important as well. I always think that we schedule things when it comes to work or taking the kids to soccer or whatever it may be, and we follow through with those deadlines and schedules because that's something that we have to do. So we should probably start adding, if maybe say physical activity or working out is something that you want to increase in your life, schedule it. Put it, even if it's putting it in your Outlook. Let's say your Outlook reminds you of an appointment or a meeting that you have with somebody at work that you have it in 10 minutes. You're not going to ignore that appointment. You have to go to that meeting. You have a meeting set, and that's something that you're going to follow through with, and you're going to go meet with whatever coworker you have scheduled to meet with in 10 minutes. We need to set these Outlook reminders on our these Outlook appointments on our Outlook as a reminder to actually follow through with it. If you know that you're not going to have time that morning and maybe you're going to do your walk at lunch or something, schedule it on Outlook. We're not going to ignore any other meeting, that whether it be work or an event with the kids or meeting with so-and-so, it doesn't matter. We're probably not going to ignore whatever event pops up, so we shouldn't ignore the schedule that we have to exercise as well. Make sure that you make it a habit to schedule this, and that if you know that you're going to be really busy on Wednesday night after work, maybe you should get up and go to the gym in the morning before work, or do it on your lunch break, whatever it may be. But try to plan ahead and schedule these types of things so that it gets done. For example, I will walk every morning at 6:30 a.m. for 20 minutes. If for some reason you're not a morning person, that may not be the best time for you, obviously. Maybe you want to schedule that 20-minute walk at lunch. If you have an hour and you already have eaten, or you want to walk first, that's plenty of time to get in a quick walk every day at lunch, and that's a step in the right direction. And deadlines work really well for a lot of people. So if we continuously set new deadlines with new action items, then that can be extremely helpful. Let's say we start with a certain deadline of I will walk 20 minutes at lunch every day. If that 20 minutes seems like it could be extended and maybe you want to make it 30, then bump it up. They can always be revised, and we can always be setting new deadlines as well. We just don't want to forget to schedule them so that we know exactly when they're happening and we make them happen. Number 3, finding your motivation. So motivation comes from various sources, and it's going to be unique to you. Everybody's a little bit different, so this is something that we need to consider when it comes to motivation. Some things motivate others more so than other people, but it just is a matter of figuring out what works for you. Very relevant, though, is intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic is when it's coming from you. It's when you're doing it for yourself. You're motivated because of something that you think and something that you feel. For example, I want to be healthy for my family. So this is talking about for your family, but it's because you want to be healthy for your family. So this is an intrinsic motivator because this is something that you feel and something that you want. Number 2 there is not smoking makes me feel more energetic. That's something that you're feeling. You're feeling more energetic, so it's coming from within, and this is intrinsic. The 3rd there is I feel empowered when I don't pick up a cigarette. So this is another intrinsic motivator because it's another feeling that you're having. You're feeling empowered. That's something that's coming from within you, and that's really great. The intrinsic motivators are huge motivators. Another type of motivator, which is also good, are extrinsic motivators. It's something that make you feel accountable. For example, telling someone your goal. This may mean telling someone that you're not totally comfortable with telling. It doesn't have to be that way, but if you know that, for example, you're going to tell mom and you may not be feeling all that accountable with mom because you know she's going to love you either way, maybe you want to pick somebody else that you want to tell so that it makes you feel more accountable. For example, a coworker. If you let your coworker know that you have a certain goal in mind and they hold you accountable and they ask how that's going, that's going to make you want to keep going with that goal because you know that they're kind of checking up on you and keeping an eye on whether or not you're actually going through with your goal or not. Another thing is deadlines and scheduled activities, like we talked about. These are extrinsic motivators because the deadline or scheduled activity is right there on your calendar as a reminder, so that can give you some motivation to move forward with whatever you have scheduled there. Last, we always want to monitor. So this may mean a lot of different things, and that's why I said it can be different for every person. Monitoring could mean checking your weight, getting on a scale, and actually weighing yourself. But I always like to remind people that if you start working out and you build some muscle maybe, and you are losing some fat, but you're gaining muscle as well, the scale may not change. So we need to make sure that monitoring isn't always necessarily just stepping on a scale. It can also be how you feel. Do you have more energy? Do you fit differently in your clothing? Whatever it may be. So monitoring is very important, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the same for everybody. Monitoring can be different for a lot of different people, but we do want to make sure that we're monitoring our progress to make sure that we're moving in the right direction and moving towards that end goal. Accountability can offer a sense of reward as well. For example, if we will be praised because we are actually staying accountable and moving towards our goal, this can give us a sense of motivation because we know that we're moving in the right direction and that people are aware of that if we're being praised. But it also, accountability can also offer a sense of consequence because It can be a fear of if we're not staying on track and if we're dropping whatever we plan to do. It can be a sense of consequence, because if we skipped out on a task or whatever it may be, it can make us feel discouraged a bit. That discouragement can sometimes come full circle and be motivation, because you know that at the end of the day, you didn't do what you planned on doing. And let's say in the morning you were so motivated and pumped up to do exactly what you thought you could do that day, and you know whatever it is isn't that difficult, that you are capable of it. Maybe at the end of the day you feel discouraged because you didn't do it, but that might be motivation to move forward the next day and jump back up there and start over again and make sure that you're moving forward with your goal, because you know you are capable of doing it. So motivation can definitely come from accountability, because if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, that can be motivation to keep moving forward because you know you're pushing yourself in the right direction. Or it could also be a sense of consequence, which motivates because you know you're capable of it and you're upset with yourself that you didn't go through with it that day. Monitoring your progress is a great motivator as well, so let's not forget that. And this is one reason why, for example, food journals or exercise logs, they can work really, really well. It's important to keep track of what we're doing so that at the end of the day, if you look at that food log and it has all healthy things in there and you didn't touch a single sweet or unhealthy food all day, that's a motivator that I can do this. This is something that I'm very capable of. I did it today and I'm going to do it tomorrow. It could also be the opposite. You look at that food log and there are way more sweets on there than you ever realized. You thought you were eating healthy all day, and now you're looking back and you're like, uh-oh, here I thought I was doing good and I hit a wall here or there. So maybe that would be your motivator for the next day, to be like, okay, I need to be better. I can do this and I need to move forward and not eat those sweets that are currently on my food journal. So that's why tracking things can be extremely helpful to pay attention. Another example is if you're stopping smoking or you're attempting to do smoking cessation. If you don't pay attention and actually log exactly how many cigarettes you're having, how are you going to know for sure? In your mind, you might say, oh, I definitely had less today than I did yesterday. But if you're not actually tracking those cigarettes and you're not writing down how many you had, how are you going to know that you're moving in the right direction or that you've actually had less that day than you did the day before? So for example, if you have 8 cigarettes one day and you tally them the next day and you're down to 6, you only tallied 6 cigarettes that day, you know you're making moves in the right direction, and that's going to be extreme motivation to move forward to the next day and have even 1 less or 2 less. Just make sure you're tracking that type of thing so that when you're tallying those cigarettes, you know exactly how many you're having and you're not guessing. All right, so number 4, identifying barriers. So when it comes to identifying barriers, this can be extremely helpful in goal setting and getting to your results and getting to the end result that you want to see. There are barriers no matter what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. There's always going to be barriers and roadblocks, and it's a matter of how you take on those barriers and how you take on those roadblocks. We want to make sure that we can overcome them. We want to make sure that we're prepared for them so that we know exactly how we're going to deal with them when they do come up. Michael Jordan said, if you're trying to achieve, there will be roadblocks. And I think he's a good example himself because he was cut from his high school basketball team. So this shows you right there that even the best will hit roadblocks, and they're going to have barriers and obstacles, but people need to overcome them. And it's a matter of figuring out how you're going to overcome those roadblocks. So we're going to identify the barriers ahead of time, and then you can set up some safeguards. If you go into whatever goal you have knowing exactly which barriers are going to come your way, you can set up safeguards so that you're ready for them and you can overcome them and you're not afraid of them. For example, removing the temptation. Don't bring cigarettes when you go to a party, for example, if you're trying not to smoke. Don't buy chocolate for your house. I think that's a huge one right there is whatever you have in your house, that's temptation. If you are trying to cut back on sweets and not have sweets, but they're there, it takes a lot of willpower to say no to having those sweets. And willpower is important as well, but removing the temptation can definitely be a very helpful step so that you don't have to even have the option to have those cookies that are in the pantry or whatever it may be. And a lot of people have children and say they have them for them, but if you have a goal in mind for yourself right now and you're really trying to overcome this want for sweets or want for whatever it is, and you're working on you and you want to make sure that you don't have those sweets, don't have them in the house. Your kids don't need them in the house either, and you can get them a little sweet at the store if that's a possibility. But when it comes to actually having them inside of your home, it's really hard to say no if you know that you're a cookie person and they're in the pantry. So that's why it's important to just make sure you don't even have that temptation there. Make sure that your house is clear of everything that you don't want to tempt yourself with. And for example, if you're trying to cut back on your phone time and you know that when you get in bed at night, you stay up later because you use your phone, charge your phone in the kitchen. Don't charge it by your bedside. It's little steps like this that can make a huge impact, because at that point, you're moving forward with the idea of not even having that temptation in front of you. And that can be the first step to removing the want altogether. If you don't have it there, maybe eventually you're not going to want it anymore anyway. You can also set up if-thens. For example, if somebody offers me a cigarette, then I will say no. Then you know that if you're going to go to a party and you're going to have a friend or two there that offers you that cigarette, know what you're going to do ahead of time. Know that you're going to go find another group of people to chat with and converse with so that you can stay away from those that are smoking the cigarettes. Have a plan in place so that if somebody does offer you a cigarette, you know exactly what you're going to do to avoid actually taking that cigarette. Another thing is, if I go on vacation, then I will allow myself to have ice cream the day we leave. So if you know that you're going on vacation and you've worked so hard for months to whatever it may be, lose weight, eat healthier, etc., you know you're going on vacation, there's going to be a lot of temptation around you. Have a plan in place so then you can ignore that temptation, and you know that at the last day there, you're going to allow yourself to have ice cream. That's a really good idea, because then you know what your plan is, and you know that every night when dessert comes out, you're going to not have it, because at the end of that vacation, the day you were going to go home, you get to have ice cream that day. And you've worked so hard to get to where you are, so you don't want to ruin how far you've come. So it's important when you're setting up your healthy habits to try to list the possible barriers to the success that you're trying to overcome. Then make sure you're putting safeguards into place. Put a plan in place that will reduce your susceptibility to whatever issue it is. Make sure that you are just planning ahead and figuring out your barriers. Every single person is different. Every person's going to have a different barrier. You may have some that are way more prevalent than others, but just make sure you know what those barriers are for you as an individual. And there may have to be a list of new barriers or areas when you stumble, and they may come step by step. You may realize a certain barrier that you never even would have thought of in the process of trying to overcome your goal. So then just think about it at that time and try to set up a safeguard then. So those who decided to learn from the barriers will always have a positive attitude towards what's about to come forward. And we should actually think of stumbling as part of the success, because we're always going to stumble a bit when we're trying to overcome something. And when we have goals in mind, there's always going to be a bit of a stumble. So we need to make sure that we know that that's part of the process, and let's not let it get us down. Instead, the choice is how we handle the barriers. So we want to just make sure that we know exactly how we're going to handle every barrier that comes our way. And again, stumbling is not the same as failing. Number 5, make it easy. So this step in itself can be extremely helpful as well. We want to make sure that we're making it easy for ourselves. If we have a habit or if we have a goal in front of us, let's make it as easy as possible to overcome that goal. Don't make it difficult for yourself. And I think that it's often made too difficult to overcome certain barriers, and that's why we want to make sure that we're making it easy. Convenience drives a lot of our habits. For example, if you go to the store and you know that you're going in, let's say Home Depot, you're going to Home Depot to get paint, and you're checking out and you see those M&Ms sitting at the cashier, and you grab them and add them to the cart. You had no intentions of coming into Home Depot and leaving with M&Ms. You came into Home Depot for paint. But because Home Depot and stores in general no convenience. They sit them there because that's convenient for you. They look good. They're right there. They're not that expensive, I guess. So I'm just going to throw them in and add them to whatever I'm buying that day. So here you came into Home Depot for paint and you're leaving with M&Ms. That just shows convenience factor. Everybody uses it for certain things, and convenience drives a lot of our decisions, honestly. It just drives a majority of our decisions. So we want to make sure that we're making it easy for ourselves. If for some reason it's not easy for you, why is it not easy? Really think that through. Think about why it's not convenient for you, why it's not easy. How can you change it to make it easy? Narrowing in on why helps you make it more convenient. And for example, if you're trying to move forward and bring exercise, let's say, into your life more, let's think at that point, why am I not exercising? So you're not going to discount your environment, first of all. We want to make your habit convenient in the environment that you are in. So for example, you do want to work out. You want to make sure you go before work because you know you can't make it after work that day. Set out your clothes for the 6 a.m. workout the night before. Make sure that they're right there. They're ready for you. You just have to throw them on, and your water bottle's already filled the night before as well. So you just literally have to throw your clothes on and walk out the door. You're ready to go. That makes it more convenient. It makes it easier to get up in the morning and know that you're all set. You don't have to do anything. You just got to go. So make sure that we're making it convenient in that way, but also inconvenience helps you spot the convenience. So let's say it's hard to go to the gym because it's far away from work. If you know that you're not going to make it to the gym because it's 20 minutes out of your way and you're adding a 40-minute commute to your day just to go to the gym after work, you're probably not going to make it there very often. That's something that needs to be considered. Sure, you think that the gym's the best option for you, but if it's that far out of the way and it's causing you to just go home at night and lay on the couch because you didn't feel like driving there, we need to change that. We need to make a change there and be more aware of why it's not convenient for you. So either you can change to a gym that you can walk to, or even just change to a gym that's on the way home from work so that it's right there and you know, I'm passing it anyway, I should really stop. Either that, or honestly, for some people, the gym isn't the best option because they know that they don't want to go there. They don't want to drive there. They maybe feel intimidated there, whatever it may be. Some people, the gym isn't the best option for. And if that's the case, there's so many options today. There are workout videos that you can buy and just watch at home. Then you can come home and you can do it right in your own home. Have the workout video right there ready for you with your gym clothes when you walk in the door. Then you can do it there instead if that's what works for you. If you know you're paying for a gym membership that you're not using, that's discouraging in itself. Instead, you could purchase a workout video that no matter who you are or what level you're at, it can be very intense, it can be not so intense, whatever you want. But you can work out at home if that's what works for you. I mean, I know other people would, if they were to come home, they would lay on the couch, so they need to go to the gym. But you need to make it whatever works for you, whatever is convenient for you, and whatever is going to make you push forward in with your goal and help you get to where you want to be. So making it inconvenient can change everything. So that is why we need to just make sure that we know exactly what the goal is and make sure that we have our environment set up in the best way possible to make sure that we are moving forward. So these are a few things that we can also take into consideration. We want to increase the amount of energy needed if for some reason if we're trying to not do something. So if we're trying to quit smoking, for example, we want to make sure that we have no cigarettes in that house. If there are no cigarettes in the house and we can, and we know for a fact that we would have to actually drive to the store to get those cigarettes, and we decide that there's no way we feel like driving to the store right now, that's an increase in energy needed to go get those cigarettes. So that will help us to avoid actually going to the store and actually smoking the cigarette because we don't want to go to the store. So if it's something that we're trying to cut out, increase the amount of energy needed to get whatever it is. Hiding things can work, delaying it. I like the idea of delaying it. If you know that after dinner you are craving to have a sweet of some sort, not only delay it, but also engage in another activity. By engaging in another activity that takes your mind off of it, you may actually forget about the sweet altogether. And this is helpful because if that's the case, you can move forward with the rest of your night and not have that cupcake or whatever it may be. Hopefully it's not in the house anyway, like we said, so that it's not convenient. But either way, after dinner, if you throw on, a good TV show with your family or something, and then your mind is somewhere else and you're not thinking about those sweets anymore, and hopefully you'll forget about it altogether. Once you delay it, you won't need it anymore. Blocking it as well. So these are all really good examples of how to avoid moving forward with doing something that we don't want to do, something that is our goal to not do. If you're trying to get rid of a behavior, sometimes just make it harder to do. That's the bottom line. And let's say, for another example, you want to make sure that you're not spending too much money. You know that when you're going out with friends that night, you only want to spend $20. Don't take your credit card. Only take cash with you. Take a $20 bill. Then you are making yourself accountable, and you know that it's going to be physically impossible to spend more than $20. You don't have your credit card with you, so you're all set. You only have that cash. These are different things that you can do moving forward to make sure that you don't engage in activities that you don't want to engage in. Next up is spotting the loopholes. There are a lot of different types of loopholes, and the quote here is, "Nothing stays in Vegas." So this is a list of all of the different types of loopholes that we can encounter when we are trying to overcome something. And every single one of these loopholes usually comes into play at some point when you are trying to reach a goal. We think one way, and then we allow ourselves to act a certain other way at times, and we have a good reasoning for it, or we make an excuse for it, which is not good. That's not going to help us get to what we're trying to do. It's not going to help us achieve our goals when we try to make excuses or discount what we just did. We did this because of this. That's not good. We want to make sure that we're moving forward and not actually allowing ourselves to give in to the temptations. So, for example, moral loopholes. An example of this would be, I've been good today, so I can have a cookie tonight. That defeats the whole purpose at that point. You're working so hard and you don't want to have sweets, and you're trying to lose weight, or you're just trying to be healthier in general. We can't reward ourselves with something that's unhealthy if we're trying to be healthy. So I've been good today, so I can have a cookie tonight is a moral loophole. You're allowing yourself to think that it's okay when it's not. And you're pretty much saying you'll be bad now because you're going to be good in the future. How about tomorrow loopholes? So this may be, it doesn't matter how much I spend right now because I'll have a budget in January. This is what I touched on earlier, a Monday that never comes. You say you're going to do something tomorrow or Monday or next month, and then that may never come. So don't assume that it's going to. For example, when you say, I'm going to spend all the money I want today because I'll have a budget in January, January may never come. And then it is a form of a moral loophole, but it's just a little bit different because the idea of a clean slate sounds nice, but more often than not, that tomorrow is less likely to come. False choice loopholes. These tell us that it's a decision in our lives. For example, if we go to sleep earlier, I won't have any time to myself. That's a false choice loophole. It assumes that one cannot exist if the other one does, and that's not the case. That time sleeping may be way more important than watching TV by yourself to have a little bit of self-time. Sleeping can be really great for you. So the false choice loopholes are something that we need to watch for and not allow ourselves to fall into. Lack of control loopholes. So, for example, cell phones. I think a lot of times now everybody is so obsessed with having their cell phone, and they want their cell phone on them at all times. They have to check it all the time. Lack of control is just saying, if my cell phone goes off, I have to check it. You don't. That is self-control. So we need to make sure that we are getting around around the lack of control and having some self-control. Failure loopholes. If I only have cookies in the house for the kids, like I said earlier, that is a failure loophole because you're having it in the house for the kids, you think, but at the end of the day, that's your temptation, and you're going to end up having one of those cookies. You don't need to have it in the house for the kids. That's an excuse. The kids will be okay without cookies in the house. So another one, I'll look at Facebook for 5 minutes before bed. If you know that you don't want to be on your phone before bed, charge it in the kitchen or something along those lines, because you look at Facebook for 5 minutes and now it's 30 minutes later and you're going to sleep much later and you just totally lost sight of your goal of getting a certain amount of sleep a night or whatever it may be. Those are failure loopholes. And then the doesn't count loophole. So this could be, I can have a cigarette, I only have it twice a year, that type of thing. Or cookies don't count on the holidays, that type of thing. Cookies always count, unfortunately. Now, if you're going to treat yourself on the holiday because you know how hard you've been working, that's up to you, but don't let it think it doesn't count. It's not about not counting. And if you have a goal in your mind that you're not having any sweets at all and that you're eating healthy all the time, you can't go with the doesn't count loophole of, oh, it's the holidays, I can have cookies, because next thing you know, the holidays go from Thanksgiving to New Year's and you're 2 months deep and you've had how many cookies? So that's a matter of the doesn't count loophole. You need to make sure that you're always realizing that it always counts. Assumption loopholes. I'm so far behind, there's no point anymore. So maybe you've missed a few classes because you've been sick or something along those lines, and you just say, I'm so far behind at this point, what's the point? I'm not even going to go anymore. I'm going to fail out. I'm just going to let it go. That is the assumption loophole of you're too far behind, when really, maybe if you go to that class, your professor is going to tell you how they're going to help you get around it. So the last one there is one coin loophole. For example, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. If we discount the small things, we just won't be able to accomplish the big ones. And that's something we need to take into consideration. We need to realize that every little thing that we do and every little decision does impact the outcome in the end. One cigarette, for example, is not okay. It's still a cigarette. And by catching yourself in the act of making these loopholes, you can give yourself the opportunity to deny it and then move forward with your good habit. So we just want to make sure that we're spotting these loopholes and avoiding them at all costs. 7 is trigger the behavior. So we're going to make it happen. No behavior happens without a trigger, first of all. So that's something that we definitely need to take into consideration. We need, again, to make it convenient. We need accountability, rewards, but like I said earlier, smart rewards. That's key, smart rewards. Timing, and then pair your behavior. So again, smart rewards. If you're trying to lose weight, don't reward yourself with cake once you lose 5 pounds. That's not a smart reward. If you haven't been on a vacation in a long time and you want to take a vacation and your goal is 30 pounds in 6 months or a year, whatever it may be, a smart goal, and if you do overcome that and you say, I'm going to allow myself to go on vacation, that's fine. I mean, vacations can be a great reward. It doesn't mean go on vacation and indulge. Go on vacation, maybe yoga retreat or whatever it may be that you would enjoy. But give yourself some type of reward and make sure it's a smart reward. Always attach whatever behavior you're trying to do with a time. Again, deadlines are key. Accountability is key. Say I'm going to do it on the 1st of the month or on the last day of the month, whatever it may be, so that you know exactly when you are starting this behavior and you can then hold yourself accountable. Pairing the behavior you're trying to start with a behavior that you already enjoy can help immensely. This is something that I also think could be extremely helpful. Pair your behavior with something. So in one instance, a person may only let themselves watch TV at the gym. If they're trying to cut back on TV, but they're also trying to increase exercise a bit, and they are a huge TV watcher, they like to watch TV, maybe you're only going to allow yourself to watch TV while you're at the gym. That's going to, A, get you to go to the gym, and B, the TV, that's when you'll be able to watch a little bit of it. And mainly, you're going to want to go to the gym, which is a great thing. Maybe you want to make sure that you are cleaning your house and being productive a little bit more, that you come home from work and you just immediately sit on the couch and watch television, and you know that's not good. Maybe make a goal of cleaning during commercials. then you know that you can watch television and you can relax a bit, but you're also being productive. Every single commercial that comes on, make yourself get up and clean or even exercise. Maybe you're going to do sit-ups every commercial, push-ups every commercial, whatever it may be. Then you do get your opportunity to watch some television, but you're being productive as well. And if it's exercise that you're trying to increase, then there you go. You're already exercising a bit more if you're doing it on every single commercial break. But you do have to hold yourself accountable. Number 8, check in. So we talked a bit about this earlier. We do want to make sure that we're checking in. It's important to keep logs and journals. Back to the cigarette example, this is going to allow us to know exactly how many cigarettes we've had that day and let us know if we're actually making progress. If we logged our cigarettes yesterday and tallied them and there was 10 tallies and then we have 10 tallies today as well, we haven't really moved in the right direction. So that's why it's so important to know exactly what you are doing, exactly what you're taking in. If you are taking down a food journal, this can make a huge difference. You may think that you ate so healthy that day and you're really excited about it, and then you look back at your food journal and there are things in there that you kind of forgot about or whatever it may be, and at the end of the day, your food journal doesn't look all that healthy. This can be helpful because then A, you know what you're taking in, but B, that's a motivator. You're like, okay, wait a minute. I know I can do this, but I'm not doing it as well as I thought I was. So logs and journals are extremely important, and they can be very helpful for long-term success. Remember your safeguards and your loopholes. So we already went over all the safeguards and loopholes and how we can try to brace ourselves for any barriers that come our way, how we can make sure that we have safeguards. This is so important. Remember what your barriers are. Write down your barriers so you know what's coming for you, and then have a plan and a safeguard to make sure that those barriers aren't going to overcome you. Continuously set new action items. So if you continually set new action items, this can be something that will help you to move forward further and further. Every action item is going to get you closer to your end goal, and it's important to make sure that you're always revising those action items. Make sure that, again, there are no more than 3 at one time, but if you overcome one, you can, change it a little bit, tweak it a bit so that it is a little bit more challenging if you've already overcome one of the action items. So we can always change and always set new action items. Tips from the experts. So, we want to know ourselves. It is extremely important to realize that every single person is different, and going into goal setting, it can make a huge difference who you are as a person. If you know exactly what you have set in mind to do and you know exactly what barriers there are, then you're going to be ready to overcome those barriers. Somebody else may not have any issue with the barrier that you personally have an issue with. So you need to know yourself. You need to know what's going to change your outcome, and you need to know exactly what you can do to make sure that you can get to that end result that you're looking to get to. So something to think about. What habits have you successfully implemented? Think about in the past, what have you done that you have overcome or done well and you're really proud of yourself? How did you get there? What helped you keep the habits that you were working towards keeping? What did you enjoy about them? And whatever helped you get there, you can look at that and apply it to whatever you're working towards at this moment. You can make sure that you know what is helpful to you to move forward and to set goals and keep the goals and move forward and overcome the goals. Just think about what has helped you successfully implement things in the past. Again, you're unique. Think about these things listed here. Do I enjoy mornings or evenings? That's a huge question. I mean, if you are working full-time and you either need to go to the gym in the morning or the evening because that's what you're trying to do is increase exercise in your life, well, if you're not a morning person and you already have a struggle of getting up even for work, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense for you to go to the gym before work if you're truly not a morning person. So then you know that you're probably going to need to go to the gym in the evenings. So maybe that means packing a bag and taking it to work with you so that you go straight to the gym and you don't come home first. Because you know you're not a morning person, evening may work better for you. Another one, do I like things quick or slow? That's another thing that you can think about because you need to make sure that you are taking that into consideration so that you're not doing something that is overly boring for you, for example. And one example I can think of is exercise again. If you are a yoga person and you love yoga, that's amazing. Yoga is so good for you. But if you are somebody that needs to be moving quick and your mind is thinking and moving quickly at all times, and yoga is actually boring for you because it moves too slow for you, that just may not be the type of exercise that works for you. You need to think of something that's a bit more fast-paced. And then you're actually going to go. If you are bored in yoga, are you going to go? Probably not. A lot of people love yoga. If it's not something for you, it's probably not the best decision, because then you're not going to actually go. You need to find something that works for you and for your personality. Simplicity or abundance. So simplicity can be a quiet space, less cluttered, whereas abundance can be energy from acquiring things, or you want high activity, you want craziness, you want to do something that's going to keep your attention. Simplicity, again, might be the yoga class. It's quiet, it's less cluttered, and this may work for you. Whereas abundance, you might want high energy. You may want to do a spin class where they're yelling at you, or a boot camp class where the instructor has you going at a mile a minute. That may work better for you. You need to figure out what works for you, because if you're doing something that isn't something that you enjoy, you're not going to keep up with it and you're not going to continue to do it. So that's why it's so important to know yourself and know what you like to make it work for you. A finisher versus an opener. So finishers may have one workout that they do and they enjoy it. So let's say they're runners, for example. A finisher, they are training for a half marathon and that's their goal, and they run every single day and that's all that they do. They run, they do a certain number of miles every day, and they enjoy it. That's fine. That's great. But then an opener may be the type of person that needs something new every single day, and that if they run every single day, they're going to lose interest and be bored with it, so they're not going to continue with it. So maybe they need interval training or circuit training. They may need a different type of exercise every single day, so maybe they go to a different fitness class every day. Whatever it may be, again, you need to pay attention to what works for you. Same with being familiar with something, or liking novelty better. So do you read books or rewatch movies? Then maybe familiarity is something that you enjoy, whereas some other people get bored with this. So 30-day challenges are fun for the individuals that get bored over time. They need new goals every few weeks, and they need to be able to build on previous goals so that they can keep things new. This is important to know. If you know that you like things new constantly, then you need to keep incorporating new things into your daily life, or else you're going to get bored. So these are all things that you need to take into consideration. You're unique. You're not like everybody else, and you need to figure out what works best for you so that you continue with whatever goal you have set, and that you continue to move forward towards the end result. Again, some more tips from the experts. Language can also affect your outcome. The difference between I can't versus I don't, and I'm going to versus I'm supposed to. So everybody thinks differently as well. Not only do they enjoy certain things differently, but they think differently. So, for example, think of things like playing the piano versus practicing the piano. Which one sounds more appealing to you? This can be unique. Some people may think playing the piano versus practicing the piano sounds more appealing, but every single word is different, and everybody interprets things differently. So when you're talking about your habits or changes internally or to somebody else, you need to be conscious of how you describe them. Take a step back and analyze why you might be having a negative feeling towards it. Maybe are there some steps you can take to go back and make it feel more enjoyable? There are probably things you could say in your head that make it sound a little bit easier, or make it sound like something that you would actually look forward to. Everybody's language is different, so make sure that you make it unique to you so that you know you can do it, and that you know that it actually sounds like something that you would enjoy doing. This can be a good measure to how you feel about your goals and changes, and then it can also help you to notice whether or not you're taking the right steps in the right direction to get to that end result. So again, here are the steps that we are going to take to make sure that we do overcome any barriers or anything like that. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are accomplishing that goal that we set out to do. 2017's here. It's a new year. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that set New Year's resolutions. And that's amazing. But we don't want to make it to the end of January and then call it a day. We want to make sure that these are life-changing and that there are big rewards and that there are things that we are going to actually overcome and accomplish and be proud of ourselves for. So this is something that we need to take into consideration. We need to take these tiny steps to healthier habits and to big rewards. So make sure that we are doing each one of these so that we make progress and so that we make change. Here are some really good things to think about as well. And the last words of wisdom is sometimes having a little mantra when we make a change can help us to remember what it is that we want to do. So here's some mantras that are potentially helpful, and you could always say these in your head or whatever it may take to try to overcome whatever you're doing. We are going to have a quiz online on the Healthy at Hopkins portal. If you need help getting onto the quiz or anything, you're welcome to email us at healthyathopkins@jhmi.edu. But there will be that quiz on there. It's a quick quiz just to prove that you did listen to this today. And so you're going to take the quiz on there. Once you have taken it, you will earn 25 points if you are part of the rewards program. So yes, just make sure you take that quiz if you're a part of the rewards program to get your 25 points. And thank you for listening today.